Good afternoon, everyone. Live from Silicon Valley, California. This is Spiritual Fitness. My name is JM, and I welcome you all to a program today to discuss the disciplines for leading perfection. I have Vaish today with me, along with 15 members on Zoom and close to 50 members on Facebook. I have Shweka helping me out in managing social media today. Good afternoon, Vaish. Welcome to Spiritual Fitness.
Thank you very much, Jay. I'm really happy to be back. Great to see you all before the holidays and looking forward to today's session. We have some really powerful principles that are universal, that anyone can take up and find results that are nearly infallible. I think that you'll really like it. Today, let's start off with a little bit of meditation by closing our eyes and sitting up a little straighter. When you sit up straighter, keep your spine straight, the prana can flow more freely. And if you close your eyes, then it helps you to focus inwardly and just stay relaxed but alert, relaxed but alert. And if you bring your attention to your breath, you'll feel a kind of relief because our breath actually helps to regulate the mind and the rest of the body. And if you breathe slightly more deeply than you might have been a moment or two ago, it'll help to synchronize all your energies. And as you're breathing, keep bringing your mind back to your breath. And one way to stay fixed in that is to have gratitude for the oxygen that you're bringing in. It's coming as a gift. It allows us to use this body as a vehicle for our consciousness. You can mentally think out when you exhale and mentally say in when you inhale. And now let's try a little silent meditation on the two syllables Ra, Ma. The word is a mantra, Rama. It's the source of all non-physical pleasure, comes from transrational stratum. And if you say the syllables silently in your mind, as you exhale, it would sound mentally something like Rama. And then inhale. And mentally say the word Rama as you exhale. And try that about 7 times with nice even breath. And keep your mind focused on the syllables Rama. As your mind wanders off, bring it back to the syllables. And now we'll try 3 times behind muted mics. Vocalize the syllables Ra, Ma. And if you like, you can follow with me. Rama, Rama, Rama. And now just take a moment to notice your mind and see that you are the one that's observing the mind. You are not the mind, nor are you this physical body, but you're a unit of consciousness capable of directing your attention, your conscious awareness, in any direction you wish. And where your attention goes, your energy will flow. See if you can notice that you're sitting within a physical body and you're the one noticing the body. You're not the body. You're the witness. Be aloof from the body and mind and sit on a little perch and just watch. And you can bring your awareness, your attention back to your breath. And rub your hands together to bring a little energy to your external body. Open your eyes and come back into the Zoom room. A little bit of meditation to start the day. It's very helpful. I notice myself by the practice each day, whatever kind of situations come up that might normally, because of stress, cause me to react, gives me the power to actually keep a gap between that reaction and think about answering, responding sensibly. And it's amazing how when we interact with the environment in a more enlightened way, it responds in that way. If we escalate because of being stressed, then the environment escalates. Or to be more specific, people around us might escalate. So we create our own situations and environments. And if we work on our own consciousness, then everything in the world around us will be reformed according to the way we're reforming ourselves. This is one of the great secrets of the yoga process, that we are the architects of our environment, and the development of our environment starts internally. The way we're able to control our awareness, where we place it. So, is everybody ready for the upcoming holidays? Do you feel ambivalent? Because although the holidays are a time when you get freedom to move about and do other things that maybe we don't have as much freedom as we did before, or are you taking time to reflect on the year? I know I'm thinking back over this last year, 2020, and wondering where it went. We've been so busy, actually, it seems, that it's been actually a really productive time, a tumultuous time, and it seems to have gone by quite quickly. It's the first time I've been here in the Bay Area in 20 years in December. I'm always traveling at this time of year. I'm always gone October, November, and most of December. And it's quite beautiful. but I'm just interested to see what it's like to be in one place for a complete cycle of a year and watch everything go by. Are any of you having similar observations about the year or life or anything? Anyone wants to share? I'm really eager to hear anything. I do have more to share with you today, but that was on my mind. I was just curious how all of you have been doing and what it's been like for you.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that, the way, if you observe the stock market, the way it is behaving versus the real life on the ground, as every day more than 3,000 people are dying because of the COVID. There's a ground reality is way different than the virtual realities. So it seems like there's a two different world altogether, and they're not concerned about each other at all. So it's kind of showing the nature of this world, how we are dragged into certain directions, but you see the suffering of a 3,400 people daily losing their family members, their life changed forever. And if you think about that one, you just wonder, like, where the commercial world, behaving in a totally different manner, how indifferent we are to the feelings of that one. I was just reflecting, thinking on that part, since it is not happening to me, it doesn't mean it is not happening to the people, real people who are living every day their life because of the COVID.
So a little cognitive dissonance there, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, to me, it has been, let's say, a year that has challenged a lot of our assumptions. Also, a year where we can try to be more compassive, and as the previous person says, there is such unfairness and injustice in the world, and you see that a lot of the people that is being more affected by the COVID is the people that is um, less privileged and has less access to health, to better employment. And my question is how I can help, at least from what I can do, to help build something different, something more compassive, more just or more fair, and keep my heart open, also being grateful of all of the good things that I have.
Wow. That was powerful, Anna. Thank you very much. I like your observation about the challenges of the year and how it brought you to think about being more compassionate, thinking about service, asking the questions, how can I serve? Yeah, very introspective time for you. Nice.
Yeah,
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, Amelia.
I just have something to add to Radha's point that like stock market is basically forward looking. So it's up because like next year we are expecting that, everything will be all right. And so stock market doesn't represent today. It represents like today is already represented in March. So next year we are expecting that there will be fewer deaths, it will be a happier life, like better life than today.
Nice. Yeah, thank you. That's a interesting observation also about how it's looking forward. I was the other day thinking about how a mindset that I noticed within myself often, when COVID's over, everything will be perfect.
Yeah, I mean, at least it shows that people are like positive about future, and there is a hope, like there is a light at the end of the tunnel. So
yeah, and hope springs eternal. There's yeah. And in myself, I came to this revelation, is like, were they perfect before COVID? Will they, will it be perfect afterwards? It goes to a point, I think, that I brought up previously in one of the classes about how there's a kind of expectation we all have of things to be harmonious, or at least a hope that they could be. And generally, I mean, if we look at the history of the world, we don't find it at any given time that everything's perfect. However, we would like it to be. So where does that come from? One poet had noted that if you're in the desert, for instance, in an uninhabited place, and you happen to find a golden artifact perfectly carved sitting there, you'll wonder, where did this come from? It seems out of place. Like, I think recently some people put a monolith somewhere and there was much made of that. Like, what's this doing here? It's out of place. How did it come? Was it from aliens and so forth? And similarly, our expectation of perfection and happiness seems to be at odds with the way the world actually goes. So some of the wisdom literatures say, yes, this is an indication that our nature is different. We are categorically different from the nature of the world. It's not, it's more of a launching pad, this place, than it is our actual home. Home means the place you get to stay, where you're absolutely comfortable and you don't get moved along or harassed, really. I mean, that's the expectations of a home. So one of the objectives of spiritual practice is to find that consciousness, which is undisturbed, which is beyond the fray of the changes of the material world. And that can be done by rising above the chatter of the mind and coming to a place of complete peace when we're actually aware of our higher self and the source of our higher self. This is what is written in the Yoga Sutras and in the Bhagavad Gita. Well, thank you for sharing. They're very interesting. Yes, please go ahead.
I just had one last, again, very similar to what you said in the end, I guess. So yeah, throughout the entire year went by and we all were locked down in pandemic. Of course, it was challenging, but for me personally, if I think back, most of the time I do either office work or I do service, like basically some spiritual digital service, and which I have been able to do throughout the year. So from my perspective, actually, I never felt any effect of pandemic in terms of like any disappointment, any sense of I'm missing this, I'm missing that. There was no such thing because I am doing what I wanted to do. Maybe again, maybe it's anomaly, but personally, I'm satisfied with everything which has happened this year because of the progress we have made, both at the work front as well as personal front. So just thought I'll just share that.
Yeah, nice point. Subhadra?
I was just going to say something similar but opposite. Actually, I haven't been disturbed because most of my life I've been a caretaker, and I'm running around taking care of the needs and managing the needs of others. And now in the pandemic, I've gotten to go internally and finally take time to pay attention to my internal development and my needs. So it's been like a dream come true for me.
Yeah, I remember you said that at the beginning. Dream come true. Yeah, very interesting. I've thought of the pandemic time to be sort of laboratory like. That is, I just being in one place rather than moving about so much and staying in basically one room and one garden that I have. That is, a lot of self-observation, and I'm in the laboratory. Like, how does this animal actually act in the world? I'm watching myself. Yeah. Anybody else want to share? Just sort of a casual conversation. If you have any reflections you want to share, it's a safe place. Kind of how it's been for you for the year, wrapping up. We're not there yet, but looking like we might make it to the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, personally for me, I think it's okay. Like, I get to spend more time with my like husband and a dog. And I don't miss like going to office much. But one thing I really miss is meeting my parents or like family. Uh, I can't meet them because they have health complications and they're back in India, so I can't travel. So personally, and also I'm also very scared that they might get COVID, and I won't be able to help them. So all this fear is definitely there with me. So I just pray every day just so that everyone is safe. So there is some anxiety in that front when you have when my parents are very far away. So but personally, like, I don't miss out on like office or just meeting colleagues and stuff.
Yeah, that's thank you for expressing that, Amuli, because I think that I've heard that from a lot of people, that there's we think about others that are close to us, loved ones, and we worry for their well-being at this time. It's almost seems more fearsome that something might happen to a loved one than to ourselves. It's hard. It's almost harder to handle, isn't it? Which is an interesting
Yeah,
thing.
definitely. I'm definitely more worried for them, like, than myself. I go out, like, but I just can't bear the thought that my father went out to get something. So
Many years ago, my parents are both gone. I was the youngest in the family, so they were quite old when I was, in late adult and middle age. And so one time I was visiting my mother when she was in her 80s, and it was actually around holiday time. And she had one of those homes where you could pull down the ladder and then, climb up into the attic. And she was doing that, getting Christmas ornaments out from the attic. And, she was in her 80s, so she was going up the ladder. And I say, Mom, like, what are you doing going up the ladder? Why don't you let me do it? And she said, I've lived 80 years. I didn't, I, what are you so concerned for? You haven't been here most of the time. So like, I've survived. And, I kind of went away with this thing. Yeah. How did she survive without me worrying every second? And there is a kind of a perspective that comes from the wisdom literatures also. There's a great saint named Narada, and he's pointing out how there's a kind of, each person has their own destiny or karma, and whether we wish them well or we don't wish them well, it doesn't mean good or bad's going to extra good or bad's going to happen to them because of us. They have their own compartmentalized set of activities and destiny as well. And so there's a kind of relief in that to some degree, that things are going on. There were a few more of you I saw coming on to give a few content. Yeah, Sheila, good to see you.
Hi. I just wanted to thank you for, sharing everything that you have with me and everyone else. I mean, it's been a very difficult year. I had my youngest son, he's 17, he had COVID, and his father. And that was really scary. And my sister was just released from the hospital yesterday, and she has RA. So it was it's been very, very hard. And had an adopted father who adopted me into his tribe in Laguna, New Mexico. And he passed away in April, and I could not go see them. And because of this pandemic, I could not go say my goodbyes. So it's been very hard. And, I was finding ways to cope and just kind of keeping myself busy. Before this pandemic hit, I would be going here and there, taking off to Colorado, just really on the move. And this pandemic has really helped me slow down. I bought a home, which was a huge thing to do during this pandemic. I had to have faith that my creator is looking out for me. that my creator, this is what he needs for me to do right now, is to take care of my boys and to take care of myself. So even though it's been so challenging this year, it has helped me slow down. And I really needed to, because I could just go and go and go. So I'm grateful for what I've learned in these every Friday coming when I can, because I really need it. And it's really been a lifesaver to me in a lot of ways. So I just wanted to share my gratitude with you and everyone that has been willing to share and be vulnerable, because, you know, we work in this corporate world and there's not a lot of that, and we just keep going, going, going. And so I can see good in this pandemic because it helped me slow down. I picked up my alto sax after 29 years and started playing music. And now I want to stay home. I want to be home. This is my time to be home and to care for myself and to care for my family. And just really grateful for all I've learned through this. I know I'm not perfect and I don't always meditate. I don't always get outside, but these classes have helped remind me that it's so important to do those things. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Oh, that's very meaningful and touching for me. Thank you very much for sharing that. And yeah, it's so interesting how in some of the most unusual times we learn the lessons that we really can't slow down for to learn. You know, in normal times, so-called normal times, but this is definitely extraordinary times. And the things you did are extraordinary, and what you went through. And you know, for me, I remember the first session we had here when we started back up again. I just gotten back from India. I was away for a while, and we heard that it was all coming. And I think the first session, JM, was in, what was it, in March or something?
Yeah.
But I remember it was very well attended. And there was kind of a feeling like, wait, what? What's really going to happen here? And it has been a nice place to kind of come back in and, you know, remember the ways to deal with the ever-changing world. I mean, that's one of the main themes of the wisdom literatures, is to take refuge in who you actually are. That, you know, we're not part of the changing world, we're the observer of it. And there are very commonsensical ways to deal with change and loss and all those types of things. And final point, and that is that in times of when there's rapid change, which we often call disaster, you know, that's a time when we can take most advantage of it. So your points are really well taken, Sheila. Thank you for sharing. Let's take one more, and then I'll go through a few of the slides that we have for today, because there may be some. Yes.
I can talk myself. So I do miss going to office a lot. I feel, because I feel that was my always kind of socialization, like going to work and maybe meeting friends or colleagues during the lunchtime, and picking up my son from the school where I will meet some parents, and like a little bit of chit chat, hello, hi, and those. I am not a very like a party person, so probably those were my only most of the socialization I had during the year, and those two have gone. So I'm kind of home all day working, and I have a 9-year-old, and during lunchtime he tells me jokes, but sometimes they are sometimes you might think I'm a bad mom, but sometimes those are not funny, and I have to make an effort to laugh at those. So yeah, I mean, I think I miss being with kind of the company of an adult during the lunchtime. I'm here only with my son. So I feel sad for him. I mean, I'm sure he had a lot more fun sharing those jokes with his own friends during lunchtime. And now he has to share with me, who doesn't even laugh sometimes, and tells him, oh, be quiet, I have a meeting. Be quiet, I have a meeting. But yeah, I think I should be grateful for all the things I have, at least nobody is sick, or I didn't lose. I mean, I know some people, close relatives, who got COVID in back home in India, but fortunately they've all recovered. So that is a positive thing. I have to just remain positive and keep thinking, okay, even if we get it, we will recover. Our body will fight it.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah,
I've been doing yoga that for every day, since this lockdown. So whatever time I save during commute, I use that time to do yoga. And I have another friend at Intel. So we keep the video chat on so that I don't feel that I'm doing it all by myself and I'm doing it
nice.
in a gym. So but that
Nice.
helps.
Yeah, that's helpful just hearing from you, and like sort of insights into a day in the life of, and I think we can all relate to that one way or another. And it is important, that connection that we have with others. We really can't live in isolation. And that's a part I think a lot of people are missing. I saw somebody who was somebody was talking about how important, human contact is. Just the sense that you can't touch anybody. There's no handshaking. I always wonder, people like to come in contact, even sometimes with a fist bump. I always notice that it's like people will walk across the room to get a fist bump because there's a sense like I touched somebody else. And there's that sense, we're connected. And when we take that away, it's that isolated feeling is quite intense. But as you said too, there's a time to cultivate gratitude and kind of see the things that we have. I maybe mentioned this previously, but in the 1920 pandemic, I actually lost my my grandmother in that time. I found out in that pandemic, but the you've heard of the Roaring Twenties, right? Did you ever wonder why they were the Roaring Twenties? They're after the pandemic. I mean, people, when everyone got out again, they went like, whoa, we're free. Like sometimes you see animals that are rescued from being in a cooped up situation, and they go to those special sanctuaries where they let them out into the green grass and they're like, we're free finally, In fact, there's a practice that sages used to do 4 months of the rainy season in ancient India. There's a time the rainy season was so oppressive. There wasn't modern infrastructure and roads and things like that. So basically, things came to a standstill during very rainy periods. And for those who were practicing spiritual tenets, they would stay in one place for 4 months and just really go deep into their practice. And they wouldn't realize the results of it until they came out. And once they came out, say, oh, I'm different. I see the world differently. And there is a way we can get a lot out of this, being locked down. But enough's enough, right? Were there a couple more you wanted to say? Anyone wanted to share? Okay, well, feel free to. Yes, go ahead, JM.
We do have a couple on the Facebook.
Okay.
One is from Vladislav. He says, intense and difficult year, which showed me how important it is to be able to manage change and actually accept what happens.
Yeah. Big lesson, accept what happens, manage change. One of the main themes of spiritual practice.
And Savita on Zoom says, roaring 2020s.
Well, not quite yet. Anyway. Nice. Thank you very much. How would you all like to see a few slides? These are just some ideas I think that you can take away. They're universal. I think you'll find them profound. And let's just go through them. We have about a half hour left to look. And I'm also interested in hearing if you have any other points. Okay, so 3 universally accepted spiritual principles. One is forgiveness. And my teacher used to talk about the power to forgive. It's a kind of power. If you are able to forgive, not only are you better off, but you're also an empowered person. It's not so easy to forgive transgressions of others. So here's a picture, obviously, of a wolverine, for those of you who have studied animal science. But it's also, what I like to say, is the name for a grudge. Grudge means something you hold on to, like somebody hurt you in some way or disrespected you, and then you hold on to it. So imagine if you had to hold on to this guy and carry him around wherever you went. And so what is the advice for a grudge? Just take him to his natural habitat and let him go, and don't carry him around. So don't carry grudges. And I thought it's useful in the definition of resentment, sort of the opposite of forgiveness. Resent, to revisit an experience, an emotion or sensation. That's the dictionary definition. So when I resent somebody, you're revisiting the emotion. It goes in, you have the experience, you've moved on. Actually, physically, you're in a different place. Everything's changed, but still you go back and visit it again and again and again and sort of wallow in that. So one of the ways to have peace of mind is to abandon resentment. That now easier said than done, but we're going to give a little more reason for forgiveness. So how to forgive? We'll go into that a little bit. We're still given a few reasons why, but how to be discerning about what you keep. We said don't hold grudges. And remember, you're a container. So contenere, altogether, tenere, to hold. It has that word ten, like tendon. It holds together muscle and bone. So we hold on to certain things. So that's what we carry in our container. If you consider your mind or your heart to be a container, you get to choose what you keep in there. And also, I love the way content and content are spelled the same way. So pursuing that train of thought, the things we hold that are held or included in something, that's the content, and content means in a state of peaceful happiness. So really what you decide to hold on to, if you want to hold on to the hurt and you go back and revisit it again and again, then that's your content and you won't have contentment. So if we can learn to empty out those feelings of resentment, let them go, then we'll free ourselves for better content. Here are some of the benefits that studies have shown when you forgive. It reduces stress. Your immune system is boosted, more energy, longer life, self-actualization. All of these are just the beneficial concomitants that you get from forgiving. You can learn forgiveness and develop the power of forgiveness. So here's a few myths about forgiving. In the actual art of forgiveness, sometimes we assume that forgiveness means some of these things. So forgiving doesn't necessarily mean condoning. They're two different things. You can forgive somebody for a transgression, but not condone it. And it also doesn't mean that you reconciled. You can forgive before you reconcile the situation. And you can say they don't deserve it, or you can wait and you can make an ultimatum and say, not until he or she apologizes to me, which is basically painting yourself into a corner. I've always found this in general in life. Ultimatums are very dangerous. because you're playing your last card, and you'd say that this is it. This has to happen. And when you do that, then you have to wait for the other person. You give the other person the power, and it's also your last recourse. Time heals all wounds. Not necessarily. Lily Tomlin, forgiveness means to give up all hope for a better past. And also, forgiveness doesn't mean that you have to make a wrong a right. It means you release yourself from the resentment you feel towards the offender. So this is the nuance in the topic of forgiveness, is that it doesn't mean you're condoning, reconciling. You're for your own sake, for your own peace of mind, you're learning to let go. So here's forgiveness from various perspectives. From the perspective of karma, life's a continuum. Everyone ultimately gets what he or she deserves. So we may feel inordinately disturbed by the actions that certain people have, even world leaders and so forth. At the same time, will they not get their just deserts? According to the law of karma, as given in the wisdom literature, every person gets exactly what he or she deserves. So why do you have to get so involved, and at least mentally involved, if just desserts will be served? Yoga, forgiveness, letting go of the past fosters clarity of mind. Integrity, from the point of view integrity, how would you be doing if you were forgiven only to the degree that you've forgiven others? For instance, in days when I used to drive, that is before the pandemic, sometimes I would be annoyed when people didn't use a turn signal, because I would reason, I always use my turn signal, because I'm very precise about the way I drive, and that when I'm going to make a turn, I signal. So when other people in front of me don't do it, I could have some resentment. But then I think, is there any time that I forgot to use it? Well, maybe that's that one person's time they forgot also. Why not just, how about if somebody judged me at that particular time? So do we want mercy or justice? Which is better? Well, if we ask for justice for ourselves, what might come? Mercy or forgiveness might be better. And finally, from a health context, science says it's harmful to hold grudges. Boy, is it ever. Maybe some of you have experienced that before, but I've seen it. I've seen it in family members who got into vendettas, and then they held on to something. Even if you hold on to something for an hour, like I'm not talking to such and such for an hour, it's very painful. Rather than learning to forgive, talk about it, how it can be reconciled, and move on. Here's an interesting exchange between Bill Clinton and Nelson Mandela. So Bill Clinton says, "Tell me the truth. When you were leaving prison after 27 years and walking down that road to freedom, did you hate them all over again?" Nelson Mandela, "Absolutely. I did, because they'd imprisoned me for so long. I was abused. I didn't get to see my children grow up. I lost my marriage and the best years of my life. I was angry and afraid because I had not been free in so long. But as I got closer to the car that would take me away, I realized that when I went through the gate, if I still hated them, they would still have me. I wanted to be free, and so I let it go." Obviously goes to the principle that you forgive for yourself, not because you're condoning someone else's bad activities. So to practice forgiveness, remember that we're on a stage. It's a play we're going through in the world. And whatever happened to me was just one act. Move on to the next act. And you could take it as a lesson. One of the questions, why did this happen? Is there something I can learn from it? can reconnect to your higher self. And some of you are talking about how under these unusual circumstances of the pandemic, you do have a sense of going for higher ground for your higher self, and learn to let go and be like water. Take responsibility for your part, whatever it might have been, and be kind instead of right. That's a nice mantra. I like that one. Be kind instead of right. You can use that in all kinds of circumstances, not even severe cases of where you need to forgive somebody, but be kind instead of right. Even in normal conversation, that's very powerful to practice. So here are some final things to remember about forgiveness. It's a choice. That unconditional love is powerful. If you've ever experimented with this, just unconditionally offer your love to somebody. There's practically no repayment that they can give. It's very difficult for people to respond except through rising to a higher level. Love is the most powerful force in the world. Another person's difficulty is a call for help, perhaps. You can take it like that, very compassionately, like someone who's working with people who are debilitated in some way, maybe even mentally. When they react or do something, don't assume that it's an affront, a personal affront. Everybody has some good qualities. Boy, could we go into that when we are confronted by somebody. People have a desperate need for love and respect. Do not wait for an apology. You could be waiting the rest of your life. If you can't fully forgive, try forgiving for 1 day or 2 minutes and see what it feels like. And finally, my favorite, and if you forget everything else about resentment or forgiveness, this is the best one, I think. It epitomizes the point I'm making here today, and that is resentment is like drinking poison and hoping the other person will die. That's the point. Do it for yourself. Don't drink poison. Okay, let's just take 1 second or two, a little more than a second. Any reflections? Any one thing that you heard that stuck with you about forgiveness? Albeit a very quick summary of the topic. But there's a few points in there that, I thought maybe be helpful. You could put it in the chat box if you like to, any point that you heard.
There are a couple of them on Facebook which have come in.
Oh.
One is Rafaela says, be kind instead of right. She loves it. Same with Divyangi as well. Preeti says, forgiving is soothing. It creates very positive energy.
Yeah, I want to reiterate that forgiveness doesn't necessarily mean that you become a doormat. It also doesn't mean if somebody has transgressed, like a bully, or has done something unjust, that you don't methodically take action. It just means that for your own mental protection, you don't hold it, the resentment. The two can be done simultaneously. You can forgive and also go through due process if you need to. I'm preemptively answering that question because it's a perennial question. It's like, does that mean that I'm condoning somebody? Okay, internally forgive, but you can maintain even a stern outward countenance while you deal with it, but internally you can still forgive. Yeah.
We have a couple on the Zoom chat as well. Bai Meng says, be kind instead of right. I think quite a few of them are like.
Oh yeah, if you get a tattoo on the way home, just put that one on. Okay.
PM Bar says, it was truly helpful. Some great words of wisdom. Thank you. Mayank
hey,
says,
Raj, remember, drop the mouse. That was from a class we did a year or so ago, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Mayank says, everyone has some good qualities, so look for that. Subhadra says, injustice bugs me, but remembering somehow it's my karma to learn something helped me let go.
Oh yeah, it bugs me too. I can definitely relate to that.
And Tejal says ultimatums in relationships are very dangerous.
Yeah, ultimatums. You can look at it, when you're about to make an ultimatum and just say, well, what if I don't make an ultimatum? Does it mean that I can't deal with the situation? It gives you much more flexibility. Oh, there's a couple more.
Yes, we have Biamba says forgiveness of yourself is important
Oh,
too.
that's a big one. I'm glad you brought that up because it's really important. That critic that sits on one's shoulder, it's like, you're no good, you can't do anything. It comes out if you're writing a lot. What comes out if I'm writing? It's like, this is no good, this is no good.
I have a question about
Yeah.
I have a question about that. Like, for me, forgiving myself for something I didn't do and which caused some irreversible damage. And I didn't do because I'm just not knowledgeable in that, right? So it's I mean, in practice, it seems very, very hard to do it.
To
Like,
forgive yourself?
yeah. So because I have some situations in the past, I was not aware how to deal with it, and I couldn't take best chance, and there is some irreversible damage, right? So how do you forgive yourself for that? For that,
For things that you actually felt that you did do, that you caused damage?
I didn't do.
You didn't do it, so how did you cause any damage then?
So the situation is my mother was sick and I was not aware how to take care of her. I took her to the doctor, but there was no proper diagnosis. Then she passed because of that, and it's been 10 years and it's just so hard to forgive myself for not taking proper action,
Well, Tina has some good advice. She says you did the best you could with the skills, experience, and knowledge you had at the time. Thanks, Tina. That was very helpful. When you do your due diligence and you have integrity, you do the best you can, then of course there's some remorse that the world doesn't go the way we want it to, but at least you have your integrity. You can know within yourself you did your best. And even if you didn't do your best, you can aspire to do better in the future. I mean, everyone has some record, a long record of mistakes. Otherwise, we wouldn't be mature at all. Unfortunately, you have to go through reversals and make mistakes in life in order to find out where the gaps are, fix them, and become better. And part of that is to have a little bit of remorse. But if it becomes an obsession and we become overridden with guilt, then we can become non-productive. So actually what the Srimad Bhagavatam, one of the bhakti yoga literatures, mentions is that it's like a spice. You don't want too much of it for those types of things where you did your best and it didn't work out, and you thought I could have done better. Then just keep a tiny pinch of that, but don't become overwhelmed by it so that you become dysfunctional. That's the advice.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. JM, do we have time to show the other ones?
Yes, we can quickly show them.
Okay, I'm going to tell you talk a little bit about satisfaction as a practice. Can you practice satisfaction? The answer is yes. I just found this today. Someone sent it to me. I'm going to read you a story. Get ready. A wise teacher once brought balloons to school, told her pupils to blow them up and write their name on one. After the children tossed their balloons into the hole, the teacher moved through the hole, mixing them all up. The kids were given 5 minutes to find the balloon with their name on it. But though they searched frantically, no one found their own balloon. Then the teacher told them to take the balloon closest to them and give it to the person whose name was on it. In less than 2 minutes, everyone was holding their own balloon. The teacher said to the children, "These balloons are like happiness. We won't find it when we're only searching for our own. But if we care about someone else's happiness, it will ultimately help us find our own." Ta-da. you'll see how this comes into play. In satisfaction, actually, one of the ways that the wisdom literatures talk about finding satisfaction is to think of ways to do good for others. When we're thinking of how to do good for others, paradoxically, there's a way in which we start to feel satisfaction ourselves. And the more that we try to attend to our own creature comforts, nothing wrong with that, finding a comfortable place. In fact, it's recommended in the Bhagavad Gita that you should be balanced in your life. You need to have a natural state of life. But the constant endeavor to find satisfaction, to even everything out for one's senses and mind, is futile. There's never a time at which we feel completely satisfied. However, when we do think about doing good for others, there's a sense of growth and satisfaction within ourselves. So a way that you can do this practically, make a list of things that you can do for others. And the second point of satisfaction is to simplify. You'll find this by simplifying your environment. We talked about this previously. You get rid of things that you don't need. And the more you do, the more you'll find your power of focus and a sense that I'm complete in myself. The word that would epitomize satisfaction is enough. I have enough. I don't need anything more. Give away some of the things that you're holding on to that you don't really need, so you can try that out. Here's a hint. I think this might be important too. The moment you identify the specific things you intend to get rid of, your mind will likely begin to offer reasons that you should keep them for the future. Don't fall for this trick. Be ruthless and give these burdensome things away. And finally, sense control. So there's three things I'm talking about today, universal principles. The first is forgiveness. Learn the power of forgiveness, practice it. I gave some reasons behind it. Second was satisfaction. Practice satisfaction by thinking about how to do good for others, selfless service, and also simplify your life. Get rid of things that you don't need. Don't hold on. And the third is sense control. Regulation. The senses thrive on regulation. Has anybody achieved a modicum of regulation under the pandemic? I have to admit that I do everything in a very regulated way every day since I've been on lockdown. It's almost impossible to do when traveling, but it's almost comical how regulated it is, but it does agree with me. It is one of the points made in the yoga literatures is regulate the senses. Anybody else find that a Groundhog Day kind of situation? Well, okay, let's go to the last points and I'll take any comments in the chat. And then get a higher taste. Sense control means that find a way to engage your senses in activities that give inner satisfaction rather than, for instance, there's a kind of a titillation of the senses that can come from overstimulation through substance abuse, through just kind of trying to get more out of the material environment, or as we practice in the very, very beginning through meditation, if you can find a higher taste by experiencing inner happiness, then there's a natural way in which you control your senses. And then finally, develop good habits to replace bad ones. Be very deliberate about it. Decide which good habits you want to develop to overcome the bad ones. Well, this is the last chance to make any declarative statements, complaints, anything like that in 2020 before we re-adjourn, hopefully in 2021 for a brand new year. Does anybody have any concluding thoughts, succinct, since we only have a few moments left?
I want to thank you for having this session, and all these topics are very relevant, and it really helped me go through it. I'm very grateful.
You're always so gracious. You know that? That really made my year. Thank you very much. It's such a pleasure having you here.
Yeah, and I just want to echo also for very grateful for having these sessions every week throughout the year. It's been incredibly helpful and grounding. So thank you.
Thanks, Arvind. That means a lot to me. It really does.
Sessions are very powerful in this year than compared to other years. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Raj. I can't handle anymore.
Thanks a lot. I really appreciate all of these sessions and the
Thanks,
opportunity
Anna.
that they has given us. Thank you.
Well, JM knows. I always ask him afterwards, did anybody say anything? Because whatever little feedback we get, it is always very edifying to know what everyone's thinking, because sometimes I don't know. But yes, yeah.
I was just going to say, just on the feedback, we do have requested the survey so that we are planning for next year. So if you can maybe provide, it's a very short survey, it will take 5 minutes. I'll put the link on the chat box. If you can give some feedback, what we should do next year so that it will be beneficial, that will help a lot. So please do that.
Help a lot. And I could just say the greatest gift you could give me is just your thoughts. You know, any thoughts you have, what worked for you in 2020, what you'd like to hear more of, and even the format, you know, more talking, fewer slides, more slides, whatever it is, I'd be interested to hear. And it's real wealth for me to hear back from you. But it's been heartfelt for me too, to be able to come here and be with all of you and have a forum to talk about these things. And I think it's all baked in because of the circumstances. We won't ever forget this time that we had together. And also just to say that you voted with your feet. I mean, there's a million other places you could be. And the fact that you showed up here, you know, every week for practically a year is really touching to me. It really is. I thank you from the bottom of my heart, everybody. And please stay safe during the holidays. I hope you get a much needed rest, if it is needed. And I'll look forward to seeing you in the new year. I'm going to do a lot of thinking, processing, and have some new presentations to bring out for you in 2021, in the roaring 21s. Hopefully at some point. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Your comments are always insightful. Yeah, thank you very much.
Hari
And
Bol.
last time we ended with this statement, you know, I always like to say in English, keep the transcendental vibration going. I'm writing a book right now. It's about mantra meditation, and it's all about the power of sound vibration. It's the sound vibration that we surround us with that will determine the level of our consciousness. So one of the sayings that my teacher taught me early on was, it goes Hari Bol. And it means, basically it means keep the transcendental sound vibration going. So it's a nice way to depart, to say that. So if everyone can unmute, if you like, and we'll do a tumultuous all together. Hari Bol.
Hari
Hari
Bol.
Bol.
Hari
Bol.
Thank you very much,
Hari
everybody.
Bol. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy
Thank you.
holidays.
Happy
Happy
holidays.
Thank you.
holidays.
Happy
Thank you.
holidays
Thank you.
too.
Thank you.